Inspector Gadget. Trump has a habit of fucking up in ways that may help him. I think that happened with the abortion thing. Although he managed to fuck it up beyond salvagement since then. I think Trump should have run as a moderate on abortion. And a big part of what Trump should have been about, if he really wanted to change the party and he really wanted to win, one of the big things that he should have been about was leaving this whole abortion thing in the past. It might be one of, like, if he does end up losing Ohio, that's probably going to be the reason why, right? And etc. The position that Trump has taken on abortion is needlessly extreme. And it's one of the reasons that Republicans cannot win in a lot of states, or are not even competitive, right? Like, why aren't they even competitive in Pennsylvania? Why are they even competitive in New York? These are states that have long histories, right? And Republicans do well at the local levels is because the National Republican Party, one of the biggest reasons is the abortion stance. Women will not vote for that in moderate states. But, initially the whole thing where it made it obvious that he didn't have a position, right? And that he didn't really care. And it might be part of the reason why he beat Kasich so soundly in a lot of those states. Anyways, something Mr. Trump said. I'm not going to tell Putin what to do. Why should I tell Putin what to do? That is a winner. That will help him win if he keeps pushing that. Especially if Clinton, is pushing this, let's go back to the Dark Ages. The Cold War, Dark Ages, same thing, right? Let's go to the past. Let's make America terrible again. While Trump is, pushing forward, into a post-Cold War space. It's way better than Clinton's belligerent attitude. If the issue is on attitudes towards Putin, I'm voting for Trump. That said, it doesn't take away all the other terrible things about Trump, right? So broadly speaking, it wouldn't convince me to back Trump, or vote for him, or whatever else. But the more the narrative unfolds, the less urgent stopping him seems, and the more appealing the Green Party becomes. You want to tell me that I gotta vote for Clinton to stop Trump, but when Clinton is trying to start a war and Trump is like, I don't want to tell him what to do? It's not adding up. That's not flying. I'm getting the opposite. I'm getting the feeling that maybe I should specifically vote for Stein in order to vote for Trump by proxy. And I'm not giving him any credit either. Like I say, this is Inspector Gadget shit, right? What I'm blaming is the Clinton campaign. There's no coherent reason to think that she ought to be running on such a violent foreign policy. Why is she running on such a violent foreign policy? It's stupidity. It really is. You're letting the Republicans occupy the space of the peace candidate without a peace candidate. You're making the Republicans look better on foreign policy. I never thought I'd say that. But it's true. And the more this unfolds, the more obvious it becomes. I can't for the life of me think of anybody on either side of the spectrum that wants to vote against détente in 2016. That wants to vote for war with Russia. that's it. I'm gonna sit back here, lie down, let's have a little talk because there is another narrative of this topic. I remember uh, a little less than a year ago, I guess, October maybe, up in Canada, maybe September. I started becoming very frustrated at the Liberal Party's take on pipelines in Canada. They were running on pipelines, in favor of pipelines. Now, everybody knew it, right? Or everybody that cared knew it, right? It was just such a reversal of what all popular opinion was suggesting. I actually went and I found a poll that told me that I think it was 98% of Liberals were opposed to expanding the pipeline. I don't know. I don't remember if it was exactly 98, but there was. It measured a bunch of things, like Green Party support, Liberal Party support, NDP support, and one of them actually was 98. The other ones were like around like 90 something, like high 80s. Like we're not talking like this is an issue. We're talking there was consensus support on the left in Canada. Okay, the left in Canada is the Liberal Party, the NDP, and the Green Party. And the center is, the rest of the Liberal Party and the remnants of the Progressive Conservative Party, and the right is the modern Conservative Party, along with its social credit roots, right? Reform Party. So we have that kind of unspoken coalition. We have to be careful with that word in Canada, between the Greens, the NDP, and most of the Liberal Party. That occupies the center left in Canada, and it was overwhelmingly opposed to these projects. And then you had Trudeau come out there, I think it was the Premier of New Brunswick, and they're talking about it and how it's going to create jobs, and I blew a gasket. I snapped. Not because I didn't realize that if they got elected, they wouldn't. I knew if they got elected, they would at least push it. All of the parties supported the pipeline, right? NDP, the Liberals, the Conservatives, they all supported it. Like, this wasn't an issue in the election. It was going to be an issue coming up with court battles afterwards, right? And pipelines in Canada are broadly fought in court battles, not in elections, right? So, I knew it and everything. It's just, it was so unpopular. Like, were they completely clueless as to what the popular opinion was? Did they care at all? And I remarked something, and I got a lot of responses for it from posters that seemed to recognize me, and that responded to a lot of things that I said afterwards, meaning that my analysis of this seemed to hit a chord somewhere. And what I was basically pointing out was that it didn't seem like the target was voters. Right? They put a press conference down, floated media releases. It didn't seem like they were trying to actually speak to voters. Rather, it seemed like they were trying to speak to some other force that exists in the spectrum. Some of it being, corporate money, corporate influences. Okay. The truth is, in Canada, it's a very different dynamic. Really what it seemed like that the primary audience was the United States. And I had to be careful with the way I said it, because I wanted my post to get through on the state-run media. I referred to it as an ethereal force. And I presented a couple of examples of where this ethereal force has shown up in Canadian politics, such as the mysterious resignation of the elder Trudeau in 1984. Around the same time, that the American president, Ronald Reagan, was accusing him of carrying out back deals with the Russians. It is an open secret in Canada that the current Prime Minister's father was pushed out of office by Ronald Reagan. Specifically on disagreements over nuclear proliferation. Another example of this ethereal force at work came up around the Iraq War, when our Prime Minister at the time, Jean Chrétien, seemed to, again, it's an open secret that he was pushed out of office by the Bush administration for his refusal to listen, and replaced with initially Paul Martin, but eventually Stephen Harper. It's something that happens in Canada. We don't really talk about it openly, but we're all aware of it. And you see it sometimes in these strange ways, such as, the opposition party openly campaigning on an issue that virtually all of their voters are opposed to. And there might be something like that happening here with this. Alright, so when I point out that it's ridiculous for Clinton to run on a pro-war platform, that may be true if her audience is voters. But if her audience is the Council on Foreign Relations and other kind of shady background organizations, then it might make a little bit more sense, right? Do they actually count the votes? I don't know. We don't need to get into that right now. I'm just pointing out that that's kind of the way out of it. The way to avoid calling her an idiot and calling her campaign an idiot is this possibility that her messaging is directed not at voters who clearly will reject it. I mean, obviously voters don't want a war with Russia. And instead is directed, at the military-industrial complex, which very well might.